Okay. Wait a few minutes more.
This meeting is being recorded.
Would the committee like to wait a few more moments to allow other people to come on, or are we ready to start?
Let's get this party started.
You said what, ma'am?
Let's get
I
going.
think we're ready to start.
Okay. Well, we're going to have roll call. We have Stephanie.
Here.
Darlene Boyd.
Here.
Christina Hastings.
Christina's absent.
Yes, she said she would be out. Patricia Baines.
Here.
Teresa.
Here.
Liz.
I'm here.
Beverly. No, Beverly. Fran.
Yeah, Beverly's here. I see her.
Okay. Fran
Here.
and Luke.
Here.
Well, thank you. Now we are going to move to approve the minutes. I do have one correction. It's just a minor correction. I did submit that to Brian for that. So that my only correction is that I asked Brian to do the roll call, not to facilitate the meeting. That was my only correction on the document.
I move that the minutes be approved as read.
Did you say
there-
Teresa too?
You said what?
Teresa Lavanino's also here.
Yes, I said Teresa. I got her down.
She got me down.
Yes. So we have Mrs. B who has moved to approve the minutes. Do we have a second as read with the one correction?
I second. That's Liz.
So it is approved. We have the whole committee that need to vote on it.
Aye.
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 It sounds unanimous.
Any nays?
I'm going to go ahead and say that it's been approved. Now we're going to move to the next segment of our agenda, and we're going to welcome our advisory team. We do appreciate your participation in our group. And at this point, if there's any items you would like to discuss, you can bring it at this point.
Helena, I'm raising my hand. This is Dana Stroud from Go Biz.
Hi, Dana.
Hi, you guys. And two quick things. Thank you for accommodating Brian Coleman. He joined you a couple of weeks ago. And just so that you know, he and I are going to be splitting our time with attending and participating. As noted, I have to miss your meeting that's on the first Wednesday of the month due to a previous commitment that I have for a board that I serve on here in San Luis Obispo County for Cuesta College. But Brian will be able to fill in on those nights, and then I'll be able to fill in on the third meeting that way. And then I'll put in the chat, or I'll send it to Brian, a reminder that on May 3rd, if you haven't already seen this, on May 3rd, SURF, the SURF table that we've been talking about, is going to be hosting a regional workshop for the Central Coast and San Francisco, or what we call Bay Area regions. So they're combining these two regions for this workshop to review the guidelines that are that have just recently been distributed and solicit feedback at the workshop. I know that you've probably been in communication with Renee, or she has shared information, and you have heard us talk about SURF. As a reminder, that's the Community Economic Resilience Fund. So I think for those who are able to participate, this might be a great opportunity to learn more about the program and start to understand opportunities for how to engage with it in the Central Coast region. And Brian, I'll send that link to you and you can distribute that to everybody, because there is a registration. It's free, but they do request advanced registration. And so the link that I send Brian that he'll route to you all will have the link to the registration. And those are the 2 points I needed to make tonight. Thank you.
Dana, is that a remote via Zoom, or is it a webinar?
It's virtual, so it's via Zoom, and it will be interactive. So I think they're splitting. There'll be a joint. Everybody who signed up together will be in the sessions together, but then I think they will break you out into the Central Coast region and put the Bay Area folks together so that you can start to have, meet others from the region that are going to be attending the session. So thank you.
I have a question about that since we're having the charrettes starting on the 3rd. Will this be recorded so that it's something that we can go and pick up later?
That is such a good question. And I don't have the answer for it, but I will find out for you very quickly and get a response to you, Beverly. That's a really good question. I don't want to guess because I don't want to be wrong. So I will get the answer and I'll share that with Brian, and he'll share that when he routes the information to you guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Dana. Any more questions?
I have
Fran,
yes,
go ahead, Fran.
I wanted to suggest that when we talk about our advisors on the meeting, can we announce who they are? Because I know they change sometimes from meeting to meeting, but is that something we can incorporate, that we announce who the advisors are during that meeting that we're on?
I don't see why
yeah.
not.
Yeah, my
Okay, 'cause-
apologies. I'm sorry. I'm Dana Stroud. I'm with GoBiz. Apologies for not introducing myself.
No,
earlier.
and Dana, you did do it, but I'm just saying that a lot of times when we start this meeting, there are other people on this call, and I just want to know who our advisors are for that particular call, who our experts are that are joining us for that particular meeting. And I don't think that we've introduced them, or just, I don't even know if they need to be introduced, but we should just know who they are and who's joining us, is all I'm suggesting, if that's okay.
Got it. Sorry about that. Thank you.
So far today, all I see is Dana Stroud from GoBiz as part of our advisory group on this call today. And
Yeah,
thank
Renee,
you, Dana. We appreciate it.
Renee Wells, who's usually here, said that she wasn't able to attend. She has a family emergency. So, and then Bridget, we call her last name, her assistant, was also not able to attend. So.
Okay. Any other comments? This is our public comments section that anybody wanted to talk about. We can't vote on it, but it can be brought up for discussion at this particular time.
Well, our mayor is part of our advisory board, but she needs no introduction. Just saying, in case she has anything to say.
I do. I just put her down. I apologize, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that, Liz.
Looks like Luke has his hand up.
Yes, I'd like to bring up a discussion topic. This was actually Stephanie Craye's idea, but it was to have a sign off of Highway 101. Maybe we could perhaps raise some sort of funds to put a sign at that exit to indicate if you take this exit, you can go past Taylor Farms and there's this beautiful little town that most people might drive by if they're going from LA up north or in the reverse direction. So I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts about that and see if there's any support for that sort of idea.
I think that's an excellent idea, Luke. So thank you for bringing that up from Stephanie. That's wonderful. It's something that we did talk about with the Business Association prior to many years ago, and I don't think we ever got the proper signage up, but I think that's a good way. We do have a hand up from Mrs. B, looks like.
It's something that I might have missed. If I did, I apologize, but I'd like to know from Fran how the Poppy Jasper Film Festival.
Sure. It was our first year hosting. We hosted in San Juan Bautista and also organized the Hollister side of the festival as well. It's a 16-year-old festival that originated in Morgan Hill. It's really well known. There was a lot of feedback that, wow, how did you guys get that festival over here? And so people are aware of it. We had a good turnout for San Juan Bautista. Hollister wasn't as great as we wanted, but very typical of a first year event, I would say. We had some challenges with Monday having rain, so that definitely impacted us. But we had people from Italy, from Mexico, so it's an international festival. And so we did have some good groups of people coming, and people were really excited about it. A lot of people had never experienced a film festival before. So I was really happy to see people come in and actually see what it was and see their excitement and really the possibilities of what this is going to be. And so, my job or the goal was just to get the festival here. And so now it's up to us to make it better and better every year. And I'm really excited about it. I have definitely a lot of knowledge under my belt now. I have never been part of a festival like this before or executed one. And so I'm excited and made lots of notes to help make it better next year. So appreciate everyone's support and inquiring about it. So I feel pretty proud about the fact that we did it. And so it was a great thing for San Juan. I hope that answers your question, Mrs. B.
Yes, I think with something of that magnitude, having it come to San Juan was feathering our cap. And I thank you for your due diligence and to make it happen. And I'm looking forward to future years. So this is going to be an ongoing thing.
Yes, every year they are excited. We had industry people from LA that work for Paramount Pictures. We had technical people that work with George Lucas. So we had people coming to our town and just fell in love with San Juan and Hollister. We were able to use the Granada Theater, which was just renovated. We were the first group to get in there to use that theater. And so people, a lot of the industry folks and directors are talking about, wow, I want to come film in this area. So it really was a good showing for us. And so now it's up to us to keep it going and make it better. But it's definitely sold that it's going to be coming every year. And so I look forward to continuing to participate and get everybody's involvement in more and more.
And thank you, Fran, because I've already reimagined how my businesses can be incorporated, and I'm hoping other people took note to what you said in our last meeting. Figure out what you can do that's unique to your business to incorporate in this activity to make them feel welcome and incorporate them into the process. So it's an annual thing, and then they come to be
and I want everybody to think about this and think about this fact is that this is really the first event that's come to our area that's truly tourism. It is truly tourism, and we have not had one come to our town. And so I really look forward to us embracing this and having people come in buses, as we go into the future. So be excited.
That's awesome.
Fran.
I know, we appreciate you, Fran. To get back to what Luke, go ahead, Mrs. B.
I would just like to say that it would behoove us to start now to prepare for next year, to get people's mindsets going in the right direction. So it's not a last minute throw something together situation. So Franny, I'm looking forward to working with you and to come up with ideas that can incorporate all of our businesses to make this an awesome event each year.
For sure, yeah, definitely need to get a committee together, and we're having a debriefing tomorrow about lessons learned. And so I have a huge booklet of notes. And so I look forward to getting our committee together and working on that.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. To get back to you, Luke, too, in order for us to get people's opinion about it, what we're going to be doing, and hopefully we have enough time on this meeting, is we're going to have our ad hoc committees that we're going to possibly look at possible ad hoc committees for this group. And that can be part of that discussion with probably our tourism team. You know, I believe that's one of the routes we're looking at going to with this group. It's part of our discussion that leads into our vision and our mission for this committee. So that we can speak on that more and dive into it deeper through one of the ad hoc committees. All right, moving forward. We have, we only have a small amount of time, and I don't want to belabor the time with what we are doing with the parklets. So what we've been asked to do is submit a document to our planning commission as well as the city council with our recommendations. Now, part of what we discussed today that we're going to bring to the group is going ahead and utilizing the 5 keys. I don't know if everybody submitted to Brian and if you was able to digest any of that, but the ad hoc committee has come together and they've come up with 5 key suggestions that we would like to see if we want to vote on to make that our recommendation to the city council. So if everyone can pull out your document from the ad hoc committees, the latest revision I have is from 3/31/22, sent out by Brian to the team. Does everyone have theirs? Oh, Brian has it up. Let me see, that's not the one I have, Brian. Is that the latest one, Brian?
Yes, that's the latest one.
Okay, so it's going to be question to the team on, do we want to utilize the key conclusions that was developed in the ad hoc committee as something that's going to be put together for our planning commission as well as the city council? Any comments on that? Or you take a little bit more time to read it?
What was the question again, Madam Chair? I'm sorry.
So from my understanding, Brian has suggested that we utilize these 5 key components that have been concluded through the ad hoc committee as something that will be submitted to the city council as well as to the planning commission as the key conclusions of the ad hoc committee. Or do we want to expand on that?
I would like to say that the purpose of having that subcommittee was to bring forth major points to present. So I think that it really gives our thought processes pretty clearly.
Okay. Go ahead, Luke.
I would like my voice to be represented in what is given to the city council. Specifically, my comments about, or my additional comments about making sure that the parklets are accessible 24/7 by the public, that businesses should pay a monthly rent to use this public space, and that signage should be added to parklets to indicate that they're public property.
There, if I might interject, as we were initially trying to come up with the parklet plan, the criteria for the guidelines, it was stated in those guidelines that the parklets had to be closed off after business hours, and that's a liability issue, I'm sure. So we'd be going against the guidelines to do otherwise.
And my suggestion is to, obviously guidelines can be changed, just as the parklets were initially intended to be a temporary response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It sounds like there's lots of things that are currently in the air. So this is a great moment to change the rules, it sounds like.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, this is Fran, is that we're not here to change the rules. You know, we're here to say these are the parklets as they are today, and our concepts of them. And so if we're going to do the fees, because there was discussion about that, and we're going to make them this, and we're going to make them that, that's something that has to be decided and then discussed and you know, perhaps voted on. And that's a whole changing of the whole rules when we're just trying to decide where the future is for now, and all of our input on that. So what you're saying is sort of, you know, if they were deemed, you know, permanent, because we're not using that word, it's been a word that we've had to leave off our vocabulary, then that opens it up to, okay, well, what changes are suggesting to make to those now that they're deemed permanent? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
But this is
Teresa,
our opportunity as a committee to reach out to the city council to give our feedback. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that means the sky's the limit. We're just here as citizens to make our recommendations for the city council to make their decisions. And
yeah, and you're right. And I know that we also discussed getting more community feedback, and that's when you can submit your feedback, is we do need to get more community feedback as well, and get feedback directly from the parklet owners. So that was part of our discussion as well. So this is just a first step. This is in no way concluding, you know, the end of the story of parklets, or, you know, this is just where we see them today, and in the short term, really. And how do we incorporate them into the big picture? But it's not really something where we're changing the rules or changing the guidelines. They are guidelines, but when you talk about things like opening up a space that you're responsible for with insurance and fees, that really is something that should require discussion and a process to go through, just like everything else that we do in our town. It's painful, it's frustrating. A lot of times it doesn't make sense to everyone, but there's a process, and I'm just saying that there's a process that needs to go through for making changes such as you're suggesting. I don't have an opinion either way, but there's a process that needs to go through, Luke.
And
with all due respect though, Luke, we just finished, I mean, our parklet guidelines, there was painstaking and there was involvement from not just parklet owners. So this is part of the history that you haven't been a part of. But this was just done. I mean, Brian, you know, I started that process, Brian finished it. It took a lot of time and effort and a lot of involvement with public as well as city officials, parklet owners, and just citizens. So you're asking us to tear up the book we just wrote. I mean, literally hot off the presses. Brian's fingers are probably still burning from typing those things out, you know? So
a lot of effort has been put into something that is temporary. That's the state of affairs we're in.
Maybe it would be good to hear from Teresa.
Yes, I'm getting ready to ask for Teresa. Thank you, Brian.
Sorry, Helena.
Mhm.
Hello. The only issue I have, because I love the parklets, the only issue I have right now is for the parklets, for our committee to be saying that we want the parklets to remain until construction begins on 3rd Street master plan. You know, the history of San Juan, it's a great I don't know, goal to say that we'll be starting the 3rd Street master plan construction in 3, 4, 5 years, but it may never happen. And so I would like to just leave it open for the council to make that decision when to reevaluate the parklets. But that's my opinion.
And thank you for that, Teresa. We do have a couple of recommendations that we're going to be recommended to the group today, because we do have to give a complete recommendation to the planning as well as the city council. Mrs. B?
I was just going to reiterate that this is a recommendation. It is going to be up to the city council to make the final decision. And as Liz said, it took us many months and hours of detail with city council members, historic resources board members, and others to come up with the guidelines. So we can't just ignore all of that work and the detailing that has gone into it. So we have our work cut out for us, but I think we're up to the task.
Can I make a suggestion when you're ready, Helena, regarding process?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Fran.
Hey, so I have a suggestion. You know, we're talking about all the work we put into guidelines, and I'm thinking, is it like way back when I was working at a theme park and they gave me a handbook and I just threw it in the backseat of my car and never looked at it again? So I'm going to suggest that everybody on our team read those guidelines. You should read them.
Yes.
It really does talk about being good neighbors and following the rules and doing good things. And if you don't, you're going to get booted. So I'm asking everyone on this call to please get a copy of the guidelines and read them. Thank you.
Yes.
Brian, can you send those out? I'm feeling like a lot of conclusions have been derived and everybody is not fully aware of the full process. And if you could send that out to the team, that would be great, so they can be brought up to speed on the painstaking work that went into creating this process.
Sure.
I think that's going to be important. Go ahead, Brian. You wanted to say something in regards to the process?
Yeah, first of all, you invested your faith in a subcommittee. That subcommittee held some meetings, a couple of meetings, and had great conversations, which are annotated here in the memo. And then those conversations were organized into some topic areas, and from those topic areas, key conclusions were derived. And so we are looking at in the memo, in the highlighted section, some conclusions that were derived from the overall subcommittee process. I think it would be wise for the committee to accept the report of the subcommittee before you do anything else. And then after you accept the report of the subcommittee, we can then work through the 5 points that you've agreed are acceptable input from the subcommittee, kind of one by one, and ending with whatever the subcommittee really feels is a sticking point. And I know what that sticking point is. I think we all do. And when we get to that point, then really drill down into options that are available, or if you don't want to consider any options, then what you're suggesting with Teresa's comment perhaps is that the city council pick it up. So with that in mind, I would like to recommend that the committee as a whole accept the report of the subcommittee, as a valid undertaking. They were assigned to do this. So that's the first step, and then the second step is to go through the 5 key conclusions.
I agree.
So has everyone read the key conclusions that the subcommittee has delivered to us?
Aye.
Okay. I heard 2, but hopefully everyone has done that.
Yes,
So
yes,
Absolutely.
are we
yes.
ready to move forward with accepting?
Excuse me, I have my hand up.
Oh,
Just
I'm
one
sorry.
question, quick
Definitely.
question. Is the report that is on the screen with the organized summary conclusions and then the comments from the members, is what is going to be what we're voting on to be passed on to the city council?
Right now, yeah, sorry.
We're just voting on the key conclusions. The highlighted areas on the screen is what we're voting on to adopt, and then we're going to break it down from those key conclusions.
Okay, so we're not going to look at any background information, and that will not be submitted?
That was not what was discussed today. So what was discussed today is that we were going to look at those 5.
Right. I know that. I'm just asking, there's supporting information. I'm asking, is that we're going to vote on those 5 key points? I understand that.
So Stephanie, let me help for a minute here. The committee has received a lot of background information. They've received all of the comments that the committee members made. They've received all of the comments that various members made on the report itself. And these are not comments that were intended to go to the city council for their review. These are comments that are intended to be considered by the Citizens Advisory Committee as a whole to help you formulate a recommendation to the city council, because that is what this committee asked the city council to enable them to do.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, so all of that is a matter of record in answer to your question, and everybody has read everything presumably and considered all of that information in whatever decision the committee will make here on out. That's my assumption, and I think that's the reason we provided all that information. So.
Duly noted, Brian. Thank you. So do we have an agreement that we're going to vote on this now
I
go
move
ahead and
that
adopt?
we, I make a motion that we accept your conclusions here so that we
I
can
second.
talk it over.
I second.
All
Very
in
good.
favor?
I third.
Okay.
I think would be appropriate. Okay, was that a motion for seconded, and that there should be discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so not voted yet. So my
Okay.
recommendation regarding process here, not content, I'll let you handle that, Helena. My recommendation regarding process is that the committee look at each of the 5 conclusions and just simply thumbs up or thumbs down on each one. Until you get to the point where there are portions of a particular bullet item that you disagree with or that you can't reach consensus on. And so you could take them from top to bottom. That's my recommendation. Look at the text in each one and say whether you agree or disagree. That will then become a portion of your, as you move through this process, become a portion of your recommendation to City Council.
Okay, let's go by a show of hands, and I guess you can. I can't see it, Brian. Can you see everyone like that?
Right. We use our little up and down or our thumbs up thingamajig.
Yes,
Or raise our hand, yeah.
Sure.
So item number 1,
Did someone read it to make sure?
Yeah, sure. Item number
Okay,
1.
Brian.
Yeah, item number 1 says, parklets. First of all, the following are conclusions designed to validate all of the various opinions from the organized summary, and if accepted, will form the core EDCAC recommendation of City Council. And the first item is, parklets are generally perceived to be beneficial to the community and to the sponsoring business. I see that number 1 passed.
pass, yes.
Okay. Second statement, there are noted adverse effects of parklets. However, the benefits outweigh the noted adverse effects.
Oh, I get to vote too, huh?
Yeah.
Beverly, we're waiting for
My
Beverly.
hand is
to
up.
Just make
That
sure
looks
that
like it's
everybody,
passed.
okay. I see that passed.
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, parklets should not be prevalent on 3rd Street in the short term. The present parklet experience should not be expanded as a means, that should be a comma there, as a means of limiting noted short-term adverse effects. In other words, what you have is what you get. No votes?
I think
Oh,
everyone,
but we have votes. Okay, good. I'm sorry. I didn't, I needed to go up in my little arrow. Okay, good. So that,
so that is passed.
that's a pass.
Yeah.
Okay, good. It is important to know and understand the attitudes and perspectives of the community, business owners, and visitors. And I would say regarding parklets. So that's a plus. That's kind
That
of a
looks like
no-
a pass.
kind of a no-brainer there.
Mhm.
All right. So I'm going to read this next 5th bullet, and I'm going to read each sentence. Because there are 3 sentences here, so I'm just going to read each, all 3 of them one by one. Parklets should remain until the 3rd Street Master Plan construction begins.
Are we voting on that now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we on the right screen, Brian, or is it just me?
Yeah.
So
You're on the right. You're on the same screen. I'm sharing my screen,
Okay.
and the 5th bullet did not pass. And so
yeah.
I'd like to reserve that for another conversation after we finish. The second sentence in that 5th bullet says, the 3rd Street Master Plan Parklet Plaza concepts should be shaped by referenced surveys and testimonials. I think that goes to the 4th bullet. Okay, very good. We're going to do surveys, testimonials, figure out what we like, what we don't like. Okay, the 3rd sentence is the parklet experience should be reimagined for use in the context of the 3rd Street Master Plan.
My hand is actually up. I just can't.
Okay, all right.
I don't know.
All right.
It wants me to lower everyone's hand, so I can't do that.
Okay, all right, very good. So that's a pass.
Yeah.
So,
And
you know,
I think the one
we-
you read before passed as well.
Yes, it did. So in this particular statement here, sentences 2 and 3 are passed, no problem. The first sentence is problematic, as we all know. And I think a little bit of information might be helpful. First of all, the 3rd Street Master Plan will not likely begin, that is the planning process, until fall. That process will.
Of this year.
2022.
Yes.
That process will take 9 months to a year, the planning process. And it could take a little longer, but let's just say 9 months to a year. The problem is that, we need to assemble the funds, they need to be budgeted, there needs to be a plan. That all should happen for fall. Following the completion of the master plan, there's a little period in there where we do construction drawings. We call it construction design, civil engineering design, streetscape design, improvements at the engineering level. That's another step that's going to take several months to complete. That also has to be funded, usually not the same source of funds as the planning portion. And then so we're looking at an overall process for getting ready to build the parklets of about 2.5 years. And then we're talking about construction. Now, if construction starts within 3 years, that will be great. And the construction process itself anticipated to take 18 months to 2 years. So we're looking at a big project here. We're looking at a lot of lead time. And it's important to keep these things in mind as we talk about the schedule that we want to pin to the master plan as a way of benchmarking the parklet question. The other ways to do this would be to establish temporal limits. That is, how much time do you think should pass before this becomes ripe again, and we're going to enter into a new conversation. And so I think it makes sense to look at these concrete benchmarks, the better approach than looking at, and in the meantime, we can do the surveys, we can evaluate the community's experience, part of that planning program. We can get all the surveys and testimonials completed that we need, and we can then understand how to inform this open space streetscape that we all love. So that said, what appears to me is that there are 3 benchmarks related to the master plan. One is before the master plan begins, so that's fall. The second benchmark is after the master plan is complete, and we're looking into 2023 at that point, probably summer 2023. So pretty far down the line. And then when the master plan construction begins, we're looking at several months beyond that. So, altogether, I think there are some benchmarks that make sense and some that don't make sense. And the other way to look at this, as I said, is to establish a time limit. That's just generally, how long people think these parklets should stay there, regardless of anything else that happens. And so that's sort of a 4th open-ended benchmark. And I think that might be an appropriate way to for the committee to make a recommendation regarding that first sentence. That's just a suggestion.
And let's keep in mind, as what Brian is saying, this is for all parklets. We're not segregating parklets out for what kind of business it is. It's all parklets as a whole.
Correct. Yeah, the assumption here, and I think the subcommittee discussion was, there was some discussion about, retail versus restaurant versus hospitality. Those are details. And I think what we're talking about here is parklets that we see on the ground now, as Helena said. So it doesn't make sense to differentiate at this point because that's not what we're doing.
I really don't think we can differentiate because the city has already approved both hospitality and retail. So basically, we're just talking parklets.
Yeah,
That's,
right.
that's correct.
So
when we're looking at the parklets, whether they stay or not, that's going to be the question in the time frame for that, to give us time to do the evaluation process, and whether or not we're looking at these time frames, whether it's 6 months to a year, 2 years. This is what we're looking at, and this is what we're going to be voting on tonight to be submitted as part of our recommendation.
yeah, and I recommend that you take time out of the equation if as your as your benchmarks. That way, you're not really harnessing this decision to a particular deadline. You're looking at it from a community design standpoint and a process, which I think makes much more sense. And I was talking with Helena and Stephanie earlier today, and the good or bad, whether you like them or not, parklets are going to inform this 3rd Street Master Plan. What we like, what we don't like. So keeping them up, is not necessarily a bad idea, given that, we want to fully experience, and sort of solidify in the community what we like and what we don't like about these designs. So anyway, just a thought.
And another note, I talked to Stephanie about this today as well, is that in Morgan Hill, they actually hired an architect to make sure that it met the aesthetic values of their community. And I don't know if that's something we want to do or not, but definitely we want to, if we keep them or how long we keep them, we just want to make sure it's nestled and it fits within our historic community.
So
Helena, I agree with you. I go to Morgan Hill quite often, and it is aesthetically beautiful, those parklets.
So let me repeat the three sort of, or 4 different benchmarks. The master plan begins, that's a benchmark. Master plan is complete, that's another benchmark. And then the 3rd, master plan construction begins. So those are the 3 different benchmarks relevant to the question about parklets. And I think it'd be appropriate to just kind of
Brian, excuse me,
say
we
what we
also
like.
talked about one other choice in our meeting today.
Yeah, I made that clear. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I heard you right, if we waited until the parklet or the master plan for 3rd Street is complete, we're looking probably summer of next year?
No, we're looking at fall. Oh, no, complete, yes.
Fall
that's
is when we anticipate the master plan
And you
process
said
begins.
9 months after that?
Yeah, and then yes, and then the master plan completion would be 9 months to a year after that.
Okay.
So Brian, I have a question. Well, for the master plan, who will be doing that? Will you contract with like Green Play or whoever does that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And that's a process in itself, right? So will that happen during the planning process? Or will that happen after the master, you know what I'm saying? Master plan needs to be developed. So are we right now starting, if fall is coming on and we don't have that bid out yet for the master plan folks, then we're gonna already run behind.
Yeah, these are not hard and fast. These are not hard and fast timelines. But yes, what we're thinking about is having that lined up and the process to begin in fall. So that would assume we have a contractor on board.
I'll be interested in finding out before we vote on this if Dana Stroud has a comment or our mayor has a comment. in regards to this?
I have no comment. I think the process that you're working through now is great. That's the comment I have. I can neither, I shouldn't give any advice or where to go because I do have to vote on this. But I think the process that you all are working through right now is phenomenal. I like all of the input. I like that Brian is going through this process. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you. It's going to make our job a whole lot easier.
And that was a comment that I was waiting for, was that we're doing good. We're on track.
You're doing good.
Yeah, Helene, this is
Thank
Dana.
you.
This is Dana,
Hi,
and
Sarah.
I'm not going to provide any advice, but I am going to share that you are not alone in this process, that there are cities throughout the Central Coast that I'm aware of that are also going through a similar process as it relates to the extension of parklets, the development of permanent parklets, what type of guidelines, what type of zoning, etc. So you are not alone in this process. And kudos for you all to work through the issues.
Thank you, Dana. So with that being said, let's go through the 4 areas that we can go ahead and vote on in regards to what's going to be included in our documentation that's submitted to the Planning Commission as well as the City Council. So the first one would be, and we're going to have a hand raised for it, would be the 3rd Street Master Plan begins, like as a possible recommendation. Can we get a show of hands if that's something that we're willing to consider?
Guess not.
Okay,
Sorry,
number 2.
what are we voting on again?
We're
Yeah.
voting on the time frame for
I think people are confused.
Okay,
So
well, let me
I'm
try
confused. Thank you.
again. Let me try again. This vote is for a time frame for removal of the parklets.
The question is, should we have a time frame for the removal of the parklets?
Yes, that is the charge that you've been that the City Council has asked the committee to come up with.
Okay.
So that's what you're all about with respect to this question. And so what Helena is asking the committee to do is to thumbs up or thumbs down on whether the master plan beginning, whenever that is. Master plan may begin in fall, may begin in the winter before the new year, but whenever the master plan process begins as a benchmark for removal of the parklets, keeping in mind the other 3 benchmarks are also sitting there.
so we're going to
I'm sorry,
vote on,
Yes.
we're going to vote in this order. The first one that we're going to vote on is whether or not the parklets should go away the fall of this year.
Generally.
Generally.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. When and in answer to Kim's statement, when we sign on the dotted line regarding the contract for planning services.
This is only, this vote, just to clarify, is only for board members. It's not for,
Non-board members, that's correct.
Correct.
So I don't have any votes for number 1, for the
Okay.
first option.
All right.
I have
very
one,
good.
Stephanie, okay.
Okay.
The third option would be the parklets will go away in 1 year from the master plan, when the master plan is complete. We're looking at summer of 23. I have 2 votes for that, 3. No, 2, sorry. So that one doesn't carry.
So the so the question is whether the master plan, the schedule for parklet removal would be when the master plan is complete.
Yes,
Okay, that would be approximately 2 years.
okay.
A year,
That doesn't
a
carry.
year after fall, so it'd be fall 2023.
That doesn't carry. The next one would be Third Street Master Plan begins construction. When the Third Street Master Plan begins construction, then the parklets will go away, be removed. We're voting on that now.
Don't see any hands.
I see them. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 hands so far.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All righty.
So that one looks like it's a good one, but you know, I have the 5 hands.
Okay, good.
And then the last one, is there any other recommended deadlines for the parklets to go away? Is there a suggestion so we can vote on it from anybody? That's a board member, or that's a committee member, I should say.
Correct.
Any hands up to suggest a different deadline, an alternative deadline from the master plan begins construction?
Another alternative is kind of what was originally intended for the parklets, which was to be a temporary response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And given that you know, airlines are lifting mask mandates, and it seems like we're pretty much out in the clear, and we're through the pandemic, maybe within the coming weeks could be a potential option.
Does anybody feel like the coming weeks will be a potential offer, and you're able to vote on that at this point by a show of hands? No hands, including yours, Luke.
I don't think we should. I was just thinking it's.
I'm just saying. So it looks like the third.
There are no bad ideas.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
why I put it out there. I didn't dismiss it.
Absolutely.
So we have the votes for the Third Street Master Plan when it begins construction.
Fran has her hand
Go
up.
ahead, Fran. Go ahead, Fran.
I remember in our committee talking about this point, and I don't know if it's anywhere, and maybe it's just the detail, and we don't need to get into it now. But you know, we talked about as we're saying, parklets go away with the master plan. But I remember we talked about, and I really felt strongly about this, is that parklets could go away if there's another alternative for what that business was trying to achieve with it, right? The outdoor, if there's sidewalk seating, they don't need the parklet, and so they shouldn't be allowed to have the parklet and sidewalk seating. Is that correct? Do you guys remember us talking about that? So where does that fit in here?
We were saying it was gonna be reimagined into the new plan, an alternative to the actual parklets that we have now.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're saying when the Third Street plan comes. So if it comes, and a business has an area that's outdoor, then the parklet needs to go away. And I don't want to get in a situation where they have this outdoor area, plus they're wanting to keep their parklet. So I just want to make sure that is addressed somehow.
Yeah, I think, Fran, I think that's sort of covered among several of the points in the conclusions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good point.
Thank you.
And
so go ahead, Darlene. Darlene, did you have something?
No.
Oh,
okay.
I think it was Teresa.
I was
Teresa.
just saying, the good thing about this is we're doing a recommendation, and the city council will be the final word on this. So
that's correct.
Yeah. So I think that's good that we're putting something forward, and all the hard work that you guys did. So.
And I do applaud the committee, this ad hoc committee, for all the work that they put into it, because as you know, this is a volunteer position. And so anytime you've given that, we appreciate it. So let's go ahead and vote on.
I have a quick question for Brian.
Okay, go ahead.
Brian, is this going to go through the Planning Commission first and then City Council, like we've done in the past, or is it going to go straight to City Council?
Yeah, it goes to the Planning Commission and the City Council.
Okay.
And
So
will
we've already,
there'll be public comment on this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
always.
So the question is on the floor. Call the question. The question is, as I understand it, whether the committee is adopting the recommendations contained in section 2, key conclusions. Sounds like
Yes.
sounds like that's the case. So I think there needs to be a motion.
I move that we adopt the recommendations of the organized summary key conclusions as they stand and send them on to the Planning Commission and City Council.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. And so it is carried. So we will,
Congratulations.
I know.
That didn't hurt at all.
Now we are a bit over time. It's 7:02 right now, and there was one other item that I did want to bring up outside of what we have on our action items, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Mr. Group. So we were looking at maybe scheduling a meeting as a social gathering for our committee members. And Fran has agreed to host it at her location. And so it's on our agenda, and I just wanted us to vote on it. Everyone open to that meeting time, or that social event, so we can all meet each other and kind of do a bonding event.
Okay.
Can I see a hand of the committee members that would like to participate in such event?
Is there a date decided yet?
We haven't decided a date yet. We're going to work with Brian to get out some dates to the committee members to see what would work best. We just have a location, and then we have to just kind of discuss what's going to happen, some kind of bonding experience with regards to that. And then on our next agenda item, we're going to be, hopefully everyone has reviewed the strategic plan and subcommittees that was sent out by Brian about a month and a half ago, because we're going to be forming our ad hoc committees in this group so we can get to the meat and potatoes. And prior to that, so you'll note, we will have some guidelines, some bylaws for our group that are going to be handed out, I guess, coming soon, so that we know how to, yes, we need to know, although this is a volunteer position, it's a committed group, and there's a lot of requirements as part of being a part of this group. And we just need to make sure that everybody is committed to, and this in the long haul. There's a lot of processing that needs to take place with regards to these subcommittees, and we need everyone on board. And they fully know the commitment that's going to be sought after for this volunteer position.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Yeah.
With respect to bylaws, the organization of the standing committee is already established by the City Council, and you have that to rely on. And it's assumed that everybody that signed on is fully committed to the charge the City Council has asked. everybody knows what's involved. I'm not saying it's not important to review that with the committee. I think it is. The other thing is, as a way of moving this idea of subcommittees forward, I think that just a recommendation that you appoint a subcommittee to look at the subcommittee question. We've got some recommendations from Dana, from Renee, from other advisors regarding subcommittees. You've got some recommendations that I've given you. And you have some recommendations that will come out of your review of the strategic plan. And my suggestion is that the chair, the vice chair, and 2 other members of the group get together with our advisors and put together a recommendation for this group for subcommittees. Because I really am concerned that it's a big topic to grapple with in committee. So that's my suggestion, and it will allow our advisors to really drill down and help us out with a clear set of recommendations going forward. I think it's really needed. So that's just my suggestion.
I actually agree with that recommendation, Brian, so thank you. We have a hand up from Fran.
Fran?
She had her hand up. I don't know what
Oh,
happened.
sorry, Madam Chair. I was still voting for the party. I just lowered my hand. Sorry. My apologies.
Luke, go ahead, Luke.
Oh, sorry. I was also still voting for the party.
Oh, okay. And Beverly, are you voting for the party as well?
I'm sorry.
Were you voting for the party or did you have a comment?
Yeah,
Your hand is up.
my hand is up.
Okay.
We got
Well,
a bunch
thank
of
you.
party people here.
A bunch of them. So it's going to be my recommendation then to move forward with Brian's recommendation that myself, Stephanie, and 2 other members form a smaller ad hoc committee to go through and with our advisors to outline some of these subcommittees for our group and then make our recommendations from there.
Yeah, you can have as many as three additional, as long as you don't go more than 5. You're an 11-member group.
I have a hand up from Darlene and Beverly. Are you putting your hand up to be a part of that
Yes,
subcommittee?
I am. I am. Darlene is putting her hand up.
So I have
That just brings on a question. That brings a question to me is like, well, how are you guys going to select? Because like, I didn't know that we're supposed to raise our hands if we want to be part of it. So I would like to know how your committee members are going to be selected.
So
Is that
go
something
ahead
that is that something that you're doing now, or are we thinking about it and following?
It's something that we're thinking about right now, that we're going to select a small group to be on this committee to come up with, and I'm going to actually make a recommendation, and you can let me know if you're in acceptance of that or not. I'm going to recommend Fran because
I
she's
am.
from our
Thank you.
hospitality side.
I happily accept. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to recommend Liz Sanchez because she's worked in the community for a long time and with the other businesses. And Beverly. Or no, Darlene is the one that raised her hand first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There should be a better process of deciding subcommittee members rather than a single person nominating them, I think. It would be more fair. Let me rephrase. There's probably a more fair way of nominating committee members to such an important position rather than just having it basically be a single person's nomination.
This is just a subcommittee, from what I understand, Luke, this is just a subcommittee to meet with the advisors to put forth a way of choosing subcommittees.
Yeah.
So
I understand that, but it's
like
still
a temporary
this is
assignment.
still
It's a
very
temporary
important,
assignment.
It's still very important, and it'll create the formation for pretty much the rest of our committee and everything that we're working for.
It is important. Let me just say it is important. I agree with you, Luke. It's important. It's also important to make progress here. And the committee as a whole will be voting on the recommendations that Helena is suggesting. If you want to throw your hat in the ring, go ahead. But I think we need a process, and there's no reason not to do this. Every reason to do it. So again, the whatever recommendations the subcommittee has will come back to the committee as a whole.
And we've selected Fran, Liz, as well as Darlene.
Well, my only comment is that I think there should be a better way of creating subcommittees, given that the sway that these subcommittees have are very great. There should be a more democratic way of selecting subcommittee members. That's my comment.
Madam
So
Chairman, could I?
Yes, Mrs. B, go ahead.
I think there's been a good cross-section chosen, and this isn't the for all that. This is it. It's just the premiere of getting actual subcommittees together. So I think the cross-section of people that are on this particular committee, along with the advisors, should be able to come up with subcommittees that we all can appreciate.
Luke, I'm going to say that if you really feel you want to be on this committee, I will back out and let you do that if you want to.
No, I don't want you to back out, Darlene. I'm happy with the selection that has made. I'm just making a recommendation for future. I guess that's the purpose of this subcommittee, anyways, is to think about these things. But
and Luke, you're absolutely right. We don't disagree with you, but I want to chuckle a little bit because most of the groups that I'm part of, and they ask for volunteers or people to join, and nobody answers. And so I think that we're kind of gotten used to that. Like if people want to do it, like God help them, go for it. Yeah.
So I think there should be an answer to your question about process and democracy. There should be a motion, second, and a vote regarding the recommendation of the chair for this subcommittee.
I move that the recommendation of the chair for the initial subcommittee to decide on additional subcommittees should be accepted.
all right.
Second.
Seconded by Liz.
And we'll
There's your vote.
go ahead and all in favor. We're going to vote by show of hands, please.
Aye.
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 Looks like that vote has carried.
Aye.
Very good. I will do some organizing and I'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you all for a fantastic meeting and for getting this item that we were tasked with accomplished tonight.
And thank you, Chair, for moving things along. I feel
Thank
like
you.
I feel like we made a lot of progress. Thank you, Brian, for being on top of everything, and our support group. I'm really thankful. I feel like we're starting to get momentum. The locomotion is starting to move.
Oh, it definitely is. And
Yeah,
I appreciate our advisors, our mayor, as well as Go Biz, Miss Dana.
I just wanted to say that that I'm thankful for Mrs. B. So you guys probably don't know this, but Mrs. B and I have been part of the Parklet program since the beginning. We've been on every committee. We've been on just about every city council meeting, speaking up about them, city planning, and we've been on the journey. You know, and I don't know how Mrs. B feels, but I'm at the point where I don't want to talk about parklets anymore, but I'm glad that we got this far, and I appreciate everybody. And again, it's not a personal thing. It's just doing, you know, what's fair and what makes sense. So thank you, Mrs. B, and everybody.
I
Thank
do
you
know
very
that,
much.
and I do know that, and I commend both you, Fran and Mrs. B, because that is very true. I've witnessed it. So thank you guys.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. So your party will be a noticed party, be a posted meeting.
That's
because
correct.
you haven't selected a date or a time. So, you know, we'll work on that.
I think I'll get with Fran, and then we'll come up with some possible dates so we don't interfere with her business days. And we'll get it back to you, Brian, to get back to the entire committee with those possible dates that we can finalize a date on that work for the group.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Very good.
Thanks, everybody.
We need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I second it,
All right.
Teresa.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.
All right. Thanks,
We're ready to
everyone.
jump ship. Bye.
Have a
Bye,
nice
thank
evening.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.